Joining us now, Martin Luther King III and Andrea King. Martin is chairman of the board of the Drum Major Institute, and Andrea is the president of the organization. The Drum Major Institute is a nonprofit community action group founded by Dr. King, and today it carries on his legacy by convening leaders and organizations to identify common sense solutions to the world's most pressing problems.
Martin, your thoughts this morning?
Well, my thoughts are that every year we have an opportunity to ask and evaluate whether we've achieved the dream that Martin Luther King Jr. envisioned for our nation. And unfortunately, every year we come up short. It does not mean we're not making progress. But if we look at the areas he focused on and talked about, the eradication of poverty, racism, and violence in our nation, then we have to say we're coming up short. So I think about this every holiday. But what is wonderful about it is every January we have the opportunity to start anew. So we must quadruple our efforts to one day to actually realize the dream that my dad and mom envisioned.
So, Andrea, I'm wondering if you can assess where we are in achieving the dream and what you hope people will think about today and every day about your father-in-law's legacy.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind as we're talking about achieving the dream is, as Martin said, every year when we come to the King holiday and we assess where we are, we seem to always fall a bit short. But I think now we're at an alarming place in our society, because not only are we falling short, but now there are laws that are being put in place that in a very real sense are rolling back the wheels of time. You know, we should be going forward. And what I mean by that, for example, is our daughter, Martin and I's daughter, Dr. King's only grandchild, at 14 years old, she's sitting with less rights than the day that she was born. She has less voting rights than the day that she was born. She has less rights over her body than the day that she was born. And I can't imagine that that was the dream that Martin Luther King Jr., when he talked about that he would imagine not only for his grandchild, but for all of her peers.
Andrea and Martin, I want to raise this to both of you based on what you said. First, Andrea, is that later today, this morning at the breakfast that Nan is having, where we're honoring you and Nancy Pelosi, and the president is going to speak. We're also going to announce that we're calling for a march with Drum Major Institute and National Action Network in Washington to bring all of these groups together in the spirit of Dr. King and dealing with this rise of hate crimes and bringing things back. Talk about, Andrea, why that's important, that people across different racial lines and other lines of division come together in August to realize what Dr. King was about. And Martin, we couldn't celebrate Dr. King Day without talking about your mother, who really not only kept the movement going, but made this day possible. If it wasn't for Coretta Scott King, we would not have a federal holiday, and I don't think people know that. The leadership of your mother, which I always say, Andrea reminds me so much of your mother, and how your mother, I tell Joe Scarborough all the time, how your mother, because of you, embraced me and kind of like worked on my rough edges. And the leadership of your mother should not be forgotten on King Holiday. Andrea?
Oh, absolutely. It's one thing, of course, that we talk about in our house all the time. And, you know, there wouldn't be a Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday if it weren't for Coretta Scott King. And that story still has not been told, and we cannot, you know, say it enough. Her strength, her courage, her wisdom, her intelligence, her perseverance. As it relates to this year, there are a number of anniversaries in the year 2023. This year will be 55 years since Martin's father was assassinated. It will be 60 years from the Birmingham movement and letter from a Birmingham jail. And of course, it'll be 60 years from the March on Washington and deliverance of I Have a Dream. And we are extraordinarily not sure if excited is the word, but because we feel an obligation, as I know you do, Rev, and, so the Drum Major Institute and NAN to come together and really let the nation and world see we're going to come back to Washington with a renewed vigor in our heart and our souls to renew ourselves, to really fully come together and realize the dream. I can imagine all of us standing together, no matter our sexuality, no matter our gender, our race, how we worship, who we choose to love, and boldly proclaim that we are the dream, that we are going to make the ideals of democracy real in this society. And so we're coming together, and we are going to once and for all truly realize the dream.